Welcome to the Grow Your Law Firm podcast, brought to you by Pilma. This podcast helps lead lawyers to more growth, profit, and freedom. Here is your legal marketing expert and host, Ken Hardison.
Well, hello, everybody. This is Ken Hardison, and welcome to another episode of Grow Your Law Firm. And today we have the pleasure and honor of having Rob Levine, a super lawyer and businessman, entrepreneur, is going to share a wealth of knowledge just about how he grew his practice from nothing to a multi-million dollar business. So welcome, Rob. I appreciate you showing up for us.
Thanks, Ken. My pleasure. Thanks for having me. I appreciate the invitation and always happy to come on and speak.
Yeah. So Rob, tell us your story, because you got an interesting story about, why did you decide to go, when did you go into law, how did you decide, and then how did you decide to get into PI, personal injury law?
Sure. So if we go way back, my story starts probably when I turned 16. I became an EMT, started on a rescue squad, and really enjoyed helping other people. Joined the Rhode Island National Guard as a military police officer, graduated from college, got my degree in criminal justice, and then I became a police officer. I was a police officer in Rhode Island. And at the time, doesn't exist anymore, the law allowed for a police officer to go to law school, and they had to pay for it. So the city paid for my law degree, which obviously was a great deal. And it really just grew from there. So I graduated from law school, passed the bar, and then left the police department, which is probably one of the reasons that law doesn't exist any longer. And that wasn't just me, a number of police officers obviously left and decided to practice law. So I didn't have really any family who was ever a lawyer, no one to learn from. I just kind of immediately hung my shingle. And so I got a job as in-house counsel with someone that I went to law school with. His family owned a plumbing and heating company. So I was in-house counsel to them. The deal was that I could run the law practice on the side as long as I worked for them full time. And, it was a huge, big just operation. Of my responsibilities at the time were acquiring real estate for them. Over the next 3 years, we bought about 300 units of real estate. I was responsible for foreclosures, tax sales, depressed property. I was responsible for their accounts receivable department. We're building one, they didn't even have one at the time. Responsible for all in-house policies, overseeing their HR and making sure all of that stuff ran right. And then on the side, the law practice started to grow. So I was working probably 100, 110 hours a week. And it was amazing. I mean, the experience that I got from growing them, when I started with them, they were probably $5 million a year, maybe 50 guys. And I left them after 7 years. We grew to about 40 million a year, and they were a 300-man plumbing operation. So we really promoted their growth. I sat on the executive board. There was 4 brothers who owned it, and then it was myself. So the 5 of us really focused on their growth and operation and everything else that we put together. And then at the same time, at the beginning, I took anything that came in the door at the law firm. I tried bankruptcy, I tried family law, which I hated more than life itself. People trying to just divide the dog and the forks and the knives. It was just, did not like it. Tried criminal law, which I didn't really enjoy, having been a police officer. That didn't really work for me. Obviously, I did personal injury, and we did a lot of real estate. I had a couple of friends who were mortgage brokers, so I opened a title and closing company. And it was really personal injury law and real estate were the 2 big things we did. And so at the time, it was perfect, right? So I got licensed, I guess that was in 2000. And from 2000 to the crash in 2008, real estate was just insane. So we got hooked up with a bunch of really subprime lenders, and we were doing mail away refinance packages all over the country. And it was just, we bought a caddy stretch limousine. We were taking out mortgage brokers to parties, to TD Bank North, where it was Boston Garden at the time, to rock concerts. And I had 3 salespeople, 3 sales girls. And it was just really quite the experience to watch that industry, the subprime real estate market, just explode. And then in 2008, I walked in the door, and we had at the time using fax machines, right? We don't really do that anymore. and nothing was printing. Like we had title orders coming in, hundreds of title orders, right? And so I'm like, what the hell's going on? We out of power, we out of paper. I'm like, no, it's a slow morning. And I went in my office, turned on the TV, and then it was over, right? That was the banking crisis. Everything was shut down. The FBI was raiding places, like just insanity. And so overnight, really, our real estate business just exploded, just closed out. And so at the time, had just met Richard Sackett from an advertising perspective. And we started to focus on growing real estate. Grow personal injury. And then probably 2008. So you and I probably met 2 years after that, I would say, maybe in 2010. And so Paul Harding had introduced me to you, and he wanted me to join your mastermind group. And I think we were only 30 people, maybe not even 20 people at the time. And you told Paul I was too small to be in that group. And Paul convinced you somehow of letting me in and saying that I would grow, and I was focused and what we had done with real estate, and you let me in. And then learning from you and learning from the other members of the mastermind group and just listening, and then never wanting to be in the same position again, we quickly decided to add Social Security. And so now we do personal injury, Social Security, and veterans disability. And so all three are our practice areas. The law firm now is about 140 team members. So we've grown quite a bit, obviously, over the years. And personal injury we do in 3 states, Rhode Island, Mass, and Connecticut. Social Security and veterans disability we do nationwide. So it's just been an amazing experience coming and speaking right at the summit for you and learning from you, and then being able to give back and share and help people in any way, whether it's marketing or call center or whatever we're working on. It's been an amazing ride, and it just continues to grow, right? From what we learned from COVID, going from about 100 people before COVID, I'd say, all in an office, and then COVID exploded everything, and then now no one's in my office. I think we have 10 people in the office. Everybody's remote. We went global. We have teams now in the Philippines, Colombia, Peru, separate business we're running out of Puerto Rico. So we're just continuing to expand and continuing to grow.
My friend, what a story. Well, Paul was right. You are driven. You have grit. That proves it. What you said, what you've done. So a couple of things I want to follow up on, because there's a lot of information in there. So I'm just going to try to hit them, and I might forget one, but so why did you decide after COVID that you were really just going to go remote, basically?
Yeah, so first of all, even before COVID, the writing was on the wall, right? For people who listened, right, for what their team really wants. People want to be able to work from home because it's just a better lifestyle. So where we are, there's not really a bad commute, right? But you go into some cities and bigger environments, you commute an hour to get to work. That's an extra 2 hours a day that you could really be spending time with your family. And what all the research and studies show is that especially people who are on salary end up working harder, more motivated, and longer hours because they appreciate not having to commute. So they take part of their commute time and spend it working. And so if I can have a team member who's doing as good a job, if not better, working from home, they're happier, they appreciate what we're doing for them, why would I force them into the office? It just doesn't make any sense. So we just thought it was the best thing for the team members because it makes them happy, which in turn is the best thing for the clients, because obviously clients want happy team members. So it was a win-win all around. And then even imagine just from a cost perspective, if you figure out what each team member costs you in just square footage in a building, think about the savings that you have by not having, as the operation's expanding, I don't have to think about more desks, more square footage, more everything that I have to grow. I just add people at their home, right? And so we added an IT person, or 2 IT persons in-house now, and just everything we're continuing to add for our in-house resources to be able to let the operation continue to grow. Even our IT people are remote.
What would you say? Because we've talked about, I've heard this before, lawyers in groups and whatever, and their big concern is, number one, you lose your culture, and number two, it's hard to hold them accountable. What do you tell lawyers that say that?
So I agree that both are difficult. But if you make a concerted effort and you put the not only technology in place to handle both, but the personal investment, it works. So from managing is easy, right? So we use ActiveTrack, which is basically on every team member's computer. So from the perspective of running reports, which we've always done, looking at their productivity, if there's ever a question, I can go to ActiveTrack, which is basically shows me their productivity on a big picture level, or I can zoom down to what actually is on their monitor, so that you can see a snapshot of their monitor as often as you want. You can set it for every 10 seconds, every 30 seconds, every minute. So it's just as easy to monitor productivity in the office as that is from home. That's really just a bullshit excuse. Culture, no question, turned itself on its head, right? So the bottom line is you just have to work harder. So we have Zoom meetings once a week as a company. So we do company huddles, talking about anniversaries, birthdays, what's new in the company. We use a program called 15-5, which is basically the team member has to work into a computer program and spend 15 minutes a week, roughly it takes, to answer a number of questions, explaining how their week is going, what they're working on, what they need help on, things that they think that the company should be doing for them, all sorts of different questions. And their manager then spends 5 minutes responding to everything. And then they have a personal meeting on Zoom to follow up to that meeting. And so doing weekly meetings, we found, has just been great as far as having good communication between the supervisory level and the team level, and it just rolls its way up, right? So you have the team member with their team lead, and then the team lead reporting to their division manager, director of operations, to the COO, and all of that communication rolls its way up, and then as well as just company-wide huddles, like literally everybody.
I agree. You know, at Pillman, we've been remote for 4 years. I've been a virtual company. And we do daily phone huddles, 7 minutes. And then we do a weekly Zoom meeting. But we started something new. We do a water cooler on Friday from 12 to 1. And they can get on Zoom and they talk about anything other than work. You know, their kids, what they're doing the weekend. And that seems to be working. I think you just got to be innovative and think about it. You know, think outside the box.
Right. We did the same thing. We created Monday morning coffee. So Monday morning coffee, 9 a.m. No work. Everybody has a coffee, a beer, whatever they want. And they talk about whatever it is that they want to talk about with like no restrictions, just time to hang out and get to continue to know each other. We also started after that, we have a Monday morning meeting for everybody who's outsourced. So anyone who works for us that's not inside the United States has a completely separate meeting after Monday morning coffee to really focus on what's happening in the US, right? So what's going on with politics, what's going on with sports, what's going on with weather, what's going on with the schools, so that when a client is talking to somebody who's outside of the United States, there's no difference, right? They're completely current events. They go through a training class on the United States when they start with us, rules of the road, how does our government work, branches of government, what does each one do? It's almost like becoming a citizen, like the citizenship test. I think that if I gave the test that I give to the people who have to go through our class and they work for us outside of the country in the United States, we would not have as high a passing ratio as we do outside because of the class we run. It's a lot of information. So it's working well though. I mean, knowledge is power, right? So the more information, the more knowledge that you give to your team members, the more they feel appreciated, the more they know you trust them. It's about them. If you make it about them, culture is great. If you make it about you, it doesn't work as well.
I think you're right. I think that's great leadership too, because great leaders try to coach people up and make them better and help them reach their personal goals. I mean, once they know you care about them personally, you know, it's sort of like they're going to go the extra mile for you. Do you let them use their own computers, or you buy their computers so that you have access, so they can't close you down or something?
So it depends where they are. A lot of them are using their own computers, but if they're outside the United States using their own computer, they have to tunnel in, right, to our remote desktop server, and they can only access everything in the RDS. So it's not like I use Outlook 365, so I can access my email on my cell phone, on the web. They don't have that access. They only have access to desktop, and everything's inside that remote desktop server. So when they are in there, they can't download files to their personal computer. They can't pull anything out. Everything stays in the RDS. So it's really a controlled environment. So it seems to work well.
So about how many, you told me you outsourced, so you got staff, I guess, in 3 different countries?
Right. So Philippines, Colombia, Peru, and then obviously all over the United States. In the United States, when we hire, because we've decided obviously that we're remote, we hire anywhere in the country, no longer in our own area. We actually just hired a case manager in Georgia. And then attorneys, if they're Social Security or veterans disability, doesn't matter where they're licensed, right? You only have to be licensed in one state. So we hire attorneys anywhere in the country and then just train them locally.
PI lawyers, you have to be from Rhode Island, I guess.
Right. PI lawyers, they have to be where we are because they have to have a license. And obviously we don't have lawyers. We have lawyers that work for us outside of the country, but they don't work as lawyers. They work as case managers.
Do you go through a brokerage service or what? How did you figure out? I'm interested in 2 things. How did you figure out to do this? I mean, what made you go outside other countries? And then how did you do it? Did you use a brokerage company or did you use, and why did you pick all these different countries? Why didn't you just go to one country?
So it first started in Colombia, and I heard about an agency in Colombia that does this. And we called that agency, had several interviews with them, decided to use them. We hired, probably 25 people in Colombia. And I decided I didn't want to have too many people in one country or one location. If there's a natural disaster, I don't want that to shut us down. So then we went to the Philippines, which is a perfect example, right? Because they just got hit with that just ginormous storm. It's like the largest storm they've had in 15 years. And so it shut down people for a couple of days. 9 of our team members, we have 40 in the Philippines. 9 of our team members weren't able to work for weeks. And so we got to a point where I was comfortable in the Philippines, and then we went to Peru. What changed going to Peru is I decided no longer to use agencies. So literally in Peru, we opened it's called an SAC. It's like a corporation in Peru that I own. So it's top-notch remote solutions. And so I own it. We hired a company called BDO, which is the largest accounting firm in the world, and they do outsourcing work. So they do our payroll, they handle accounting, and they have lawyers that can help us if we have HR questions. And so we hired direct in Peru ourselves. We advertise just like we would advertise in the US, right? I use LinkedIn in Peru. I use Glassdoor. I use a couple other sites I can't think of it at the moment. But so we have an HR manager, and that's what she does. She advertises depending where it's going to be, and they work for Top Notch, and then Top Notch outsources them to the law firm or to the company we have in Puerto Rico, Records on Time. So it's working great. So Colombia, same thing. We're now opening our own corporation in Colombia, and we're going to move from the agency model to our own corporation, because when you're using an agency, you have 2 levels of management, right? So all of the people there don't technically work for me, they work for the agency. Even though they interact with us and our managers every day, when there's a human resource issue or a pay problem, that's the agency, not us. And so I'm a control freak. I like to do things myself. I'm anal. And so Peru's much smoother than anything else. So I know that we're going in the right direction doing it in-house. But it's a lot of work. I mean, you're running your own operation in another country, which has completely different laws. With the agency, I never cared. They're not my employees. I don't have to be concerned because, hey, if there's a problem, you deal with it. They're your employee. In Peru, and now going into Colombia, I have to know all of the HR laws in each country and make sure we're taking care of people the way we should be. Same as here, right? Just good culture, following everything we're supposed to do, keeping them informed. It's working well.
What's the average you have to pay a paralegal versus, or whatever? I mean, what's the difference in pay? I mean, you save a lot of money.
So, yeah, there's 3 tiers. So, United States, and then going to the agency model in the Philippines or in Colombia, we save about 50% of the cost. If I go to Peru, which is going to be what Colombia becomes, and then eventually the Philippines, using our own corporation, I'm saving probably, it's almost 75%. Maybe it's, I'd say it's about 75% we're saving. So it's a huge savings.
Yeah. I see this as the future, Rob. I think you've always been a trendsetter, a thought leader. I think you're starting to see it anyway. you saw it in the United States with like legal monkeys and all this stuff, but I think you're going to see more and more. My understanding is like in Philippines, they have a job thing like Indeed in the Philippines that you can just go on there and hire people just like you do, put a job opening up just like you can in the United States.
Indeed, that's one of the names I couldn't think of. Indeed, we use Indeed for hiring. That's in Peru. We post in Indeed. And yeah, it works just like hiring in the United States. It's no different. So people submit their resume, we look at it, we call them, do an interview. So it's exactly the same process.
Okay. Now I want to get back. Okay, we got that covered. Now let's talk about Puerto Rico. So I think you moved to Puerto Rico, right?
Yeah. So Puerto Rico, I don't even know how it happened. So I got divorced, oh God, over 10 years ago. And my daughter was 10 years old. And I always told myself when she graduated from high school and went off to college, I probably would move somewhere with a better climate. I love boating. I love the beach, the outdoors. Rhode Island's great, but it's only really great 3 months a year, 4 months a year, if you want that kind of weather. The ocean state, but it's only warm to use it for 3 or 4 months. And so sure enough, she graduated from high school, went to college, and then I started looking. So I was probably thinking, down in the Carolinas, Florida, something like that. And I read an article about Puerto Rico and basically it being what I would refer to as a tax haven, right? So I pay so there's 2 different models. It's really under Act 60, but we'll use the old terminology, Act 20 and Act 22, because it's divided into 2 different things. So Act 22 we'll call personal, Act 20 we'll call business. So the personal model is simple. You basically come here, you become a resident. This becomes your true home, right? Which means you have to live here at least 6 months in a day. No difference than moving to a state to change what you would do in the United States for paying taxes, right? State taxes if you move to Florida, 6 months in a day. But it's not just the 6 months in a day, it's your true home. So my driver's license is here, voter registration is here, I live here. And last year, 2021, I was here 300 days out of 365 days. So I live here, right? So this is your home. So that's the personal side to qualify. And then the advantage on the personal side is that there's no capital gains. So that if you invest when you're living in Puerto Rico and then you sell that investment, right? So what you would normally pay on a long term in the United States, let's say 20%, is zero in Puerto Rico. So that's the benefit on the personal side, the biggest benefit. That's why you have such a huge crypto community in Puerto Rico. So many people who are into crypto are coming here because of the crazy gains that they're experiencing. And a lot of those gains are short term because they're coming in, they're coming out. And so long term or short term, it doesn't matter here. It's zero right now. They're talking about changing it. They're talking about changing the law to maybe 4%, 12%. Who knows what we'll end up doing. But right now it's still zero. And then on the business side, if you have a business in Puerto Rico that is working for a company in the United States, so it's US sourced income, meaning I run the operation here and the person that I work for, perform services for, is in the US. So I'm taking money when I bill from the US and bringing it into Puerto Rico. So I'm creating jobs here. I'm bringing money here. So my tax rate is literally 4%. So in the United States, you could be paying taxes from 30 to 40% between federal and state. And so here it's 4%. There is no federal income tax. You don't pay money to the IRS, to the United States government. There is no state tax because you're not a resident of a state in the United States. You only pay tax to Puerto Rico. And under this grant, right, you have to apply and then get your grant. If you get approved under Act 22 for a business in Puerto Rico, you literally pay 4% tax. That's it. So from the tax perspective, it's amazing. I live a block from the beach, which is amazing. The weather is amazing. So yeah, it's been great. So we owned a company called Record Retrievers in the United States, probably for the last, 10 years. So originally I created it to do all of the medical record retrieval from my law firm. And so way back when we first decided to try to outsource medical record retrieval, we used a company called MediConnect. I don't know if you remember them.
Yeah, I do.
And so it was a disaster. We tried them for 3 months and it was just, all of my vendors complained. They had outsourced to India, which is fine, but for a company that has to be client facing, very hard to communicate with them. We use India actually, but only on the development side. For like IT, we use them for development of software. And if you can find someone who is great English, great. But the vast majority, they're calling our vendors, trying to collect our medical records and bills, and you can barely understand them. And so that was one problem. Another problem was that it was just a disaster on all fronts. So I decided, okay, I can just create a company outside of the law firm and do the exact same thing MediConnect does, right? So the benefit of outsourcing medical record retrieval is you can charge the client for the cost, right? So we charge $35 a record to the client. Our clients, we used to give a discount to at $25 instead of $35, where we charge another law firm. And then after maybe doing it in our own company, I don't know, for 6 years or so, I said to myself, we have this down to a science. We should just open this as a separate business. And we created a platform. And so when we first opened the platform, maybe 2 years ago, it wasn't integrated with the case management software that the law firm used. So it was like almost every other record retrieval company that exists in the country. You log into their platform, they give you a password, an ID, right? And you have to be uploading stuff with an Excel file and then be looking for your records. And I thought to myself, this sucks. And so I literally closed the company. Like we ran it for 6 months and I'm like, this is just not right. And so went back to the drawing board and we decided to integrate. So we picked Smart Advocate to start with and Litify. And so we are now 100% integrated with them, which means that really from the law firm perspective, right, the case manager needs records. They go into their software, Smart Advocate, let's say, and they just enter the way they normally would. They need a record for so-and-so and they fill out their little record request form. And that's it, they're done. Our system goes into their system twice a day and pulls every new record request, pulls the HIPAA form, pulls all the information, uploads it into our system. Our record retrievers get the records and then we send it to them. And so when we send it to them, it literally downloads into their document storage system inside Smart Advocate or Litify or CasePeer or anything else. And so it's now held in their system. It sends them an email telling them that we've sent them the document. So now they have the document saved, case number, case name, doctor that it went to, the dates of service, everything is labeled. We also OCR everything. So when we have the document, it's completely OCR'd, it's compressed to save them space. And so now if they want to do, let's say, mass tort for, I don't know, the older drug Xarelto, or they want to do currently Zantac. So they just type into their document storage system and they search Zantac. And because we've OCR'd everything, they can data mine all of their records, which is amazing for them. In addition to that, we push to their case expense tab. So our cost, the cost of the record, everything is right there for them. So when they run their settlement sheet, all of the costs and expenses are already reproduced and created in their system. So now we have a great system. Before, not so great. Now I can say we have a great system. Our platform is amazing. The integration has made a world of difference. So when I say to a law firm, I'm going to save you time and money, I mean it, because it costs them nothing because they're going to now bill their client. So instead of paying paralegals to do medical record retrieval, which makes no sense, you have a highly paid paralegal who you've trained for all of this time, who's experienced in medical management and establishing liability and handling the case, and you have her doing an administrative task of getting records. Makes no sense. So you save yourself payroll by billing your client, and then I'm saving you time because we're integrated. So your paralegal really does nothing. Everything comes from us and it's all in your system. So it's working phenomenal.
So how many case management systems are you hooked up to now, integrated with?
So we are currently 100% integrated with Smart Advocate, Litify. We are 90 days out from launching CasePeer. So that's next. We are probably less than 90 days out from launching FileVine. We have a private integration with a company that's doing mass torts all over the country. And so all of the law firms that are doing mass torts work with them. it's going to integrate with that system and then launch and link out to everybody that's in that system. So he's super excited to really be able to roll that out to his team. So I'm looking forward to that. So we have a whole bunch of other things in the work. We have a whole new plan that we're now testing in my law firm. So it's a whole new service our record retrieval company is doing that I didn't even know really existed. And so it'll be a great topic for you and I to talk about, to educate your listeners. Like, so I'm in your mastermind group with Pilma, right? I'm in 2 other mastermind groups, just not run by an entity. They're just private lawyers that got together all over the country, and it's large law firms. And I've never once heard a lawyer ever discuss what we are now starting to test in our law firm. And the savings that we will bring to the client, and if I take a piece of it, the money that we bring into the law firm is insane. So we're now doing it through record retrieval, my company, as an add-on service. Because we have the records and the bills, we're able to really just do it as an add-on. So we're starting to test it. Probably, let's say in 30 days, it'll be completely built and launched, and we're going to be operating it. It exists, but it doesn't exist that I've seen in any law firm. It exists for other kinds of companies that are related to what we do but don't do what we do. So we'll probably be the first law firm that I've heard of, and I'm connected to a lot, obviously, as you know. Never seen anyone doing it. So we can talk about it offline. I'm not ready to discuss it out loud yet till we test it and launch it, and I'm ready to actually start providing it as a service. So it's exciting. It's very exciting, because if it works, which I'm 99% sure it's going to work, we will be the first to bring it to market. That's always cool.
That's exciting, man. That's exciting. And what's the name of the company again?
So Records on Time. So it's recordsontime. So our website is recordsontime.com. So if you have client law firms that are interested, right, in medical record retrieval, and they're on any of, we don't take clients. So we get law firms that say, hey, can you use us in the platform and access? We don't do it unless you use our the integration. So right now, if you're not on Smart Advocate or Litify, I won't take you as a client, because it's not an amazing experience. If you're integrated, the experience is amazing. In 90 days, we'll be able to take clients from CasePeer. Then we're working on FileVine currently. And so we'll continue to send out updates. And then right now we've hired 4 more developers. So now we're really in explosive growth to add on case management systems. So that's really the big phase for 2022, is to have as many case management systems as possible integrated to our platform.
What a man, what a man. Love it, love it. So listen, you know, you're going to be speaking at our summit we're having in New Orleans on June the 27th through the 30th at the Ritz-Carlton. And the reason I asked you to speak was, of course, you always bring good knowledge, and you always get great reviews when you speak because you give good content. But at our last mastermind meeting, you really hit it. You went into stuff that I had never heard a law firm talk about when it comes to intakes. You know, everybody out there claims to be the expert on intakes, but you hit some stuff, and I'm not going to get into it now because we're running out of time. But I will tell you, viewers and listeners out there, if you really want to get the skinny, what he told us at that mastermind probably saved, over the next 2 years, will save members in that millions of dollars. I mean, really. I mean, I just thought it was groundbreaking, I thought. And I know it's simple, but it's a lot of shit is just simple, isn't it? You just don't think about it. Right. You're too busy, you know, the forest and the trees deal. You know what I'm saying? You can't see the forest for the trees sometimes. Yeah. But, and so I asked him, and you agreed, thank you, to come and speak. And I'll tell you, you don't want to miss this, because just, if you do nothing else but listen to him at this summit, it's going to be well worth your money and your time. I really believe that.
I appreciate that. And, you know, when I first, like I said, when we first came to you, we were tiny, and the knowledge that you gave me and I got from your members as well got us to where we are. So being able to give back now and share and help other law firms grow, and I enjoy it. Probably it's in the top 3 things that I enjoy doing as part of the entire law practice of what we do.
Listen, I appreciate your time. And so just go to website for the medical leads.
It's recordsontime.com.
Recordsontime.com. So go there if you want it. Sounds to me like that's a no-brainer. But especially if you got integrated, everybody complains about that. Everybody complains about the medical records. That's always the big lockup, the big chain, the block in the chain. Of getting cases settled. It is that, and then the lien reductions. That's the two things I see that really holds up and causes a big problem with law firms. So looking forward to seeing how this thing keeps growing for you.
Thank you. You too.
Well, listen, thank you. And hopefully I'll see you in San Diego at the Mastermind.
Absolutely.
We got our next one's in San Diego. Yep. And then we'll be seeing you in Ritz-Carlton at New Orleans in June.
The summit.
Yeah, at the summit. Yep. All right. Take care, my friend.
Thanks, Ken. Good seeing you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
You have been listening to the Grow Your Law Firm podcast, the podcast that leads lawyers to more growth, profit, and freedom. Go to growyourlawfirm.com to find more ways to market and manage your law firm. Please leave us a rating and review wherever you listen to your podcasts.